Gonna do my best to make sure the show goes on. I won't get back, yeah, if you pass the microphone. Deep inside I don't know, there'll be no applause at home. And I'll miss you most when I'm singing.
Singers Lounge. We have here in my hand the Samsung Galaxy Tab. It is very sleek. If you can see, I'm having a great time using this. You can load your email addresses on there, do most things that smart devices use with a bigger view. For more information, you can see one of our sales associates, and they will gladly help you out with this. And also, so our first guest for tonight is Mr. Gordan Chambers. Now, he is a Grammy Award-winning singer, songwriter, and record producer. He has written songs for well over 75 of your favorite and my favorite recording artists, including but not limited to Angie Stone, Yolanda Adams, the Isley Brothers, Brandy, Trey Songz. Let's see who we else have. We have Chaka Khan, Patti LaBelle, Usher, Mark Anthony, Jamie Foxx, Aretha Franklin, Whitney Houston, and Beyonce Knowles. Yeah, that's a pretty long list and impressive indeed. His #1 hits include being a lyricist on Anita Baker's Grammy-winning hit I Apologize. Yeah, I love that song too. And also Brownstone's Grammy-nominated hit If You Love Me, Angie Stone's No More Rain in This Cloud, and the Grammy-nominated theme of the movie Set It Off, Missing You by Tamia, Brandy, Chaka Khan, and Gladys Knight. I would like to introduce my friend, I call him the Renaissance Man, Mr. Gordan Chambers. Where'd you get your start?
Well, my parents are from Jamaica, West Indies, and growing up in the 70s, my father was on a cricket team, and they played cricket every Saturday and Sunday in Van Cortlandt Park. So on Friday nights, just before they would play, my father had a ritual. He'd go to the record stores, when there were a lot more record stores in the neighborhood, and buy about 5 or 6 albums every single Friday night. And my mother would cook a huge pot of curry goat, and they would invite the team over every Friday night to just listen to music. So I grew up in a household where music was appreciated as just listening conversation piece. And this was the 70s, so it was not just the reggae of Peter Tosh and Bob Marley and Toots and the Maytals. It was the great soul music, Curtis Mayfield, Isaac Hayes, Mavis Staples. I mean, I knew not just the obvious of the, the obvious hit makers, but all of the. My father had an extensive record collection. He had a jazz collection: Miles Davis, Sonny Rollins, Sonny Stitt. So as a child, I was reading all these album credits and became very, very fascinated with music. And even as a baby, I was taking the needles and trying to play the records. I used to break all my father's needles. So it was really inevitable that I would become a musician. And by the time I was 7 years old, I started playing the trumpet. And by the time I was 8, I started playing classical piano lessons. And really didn't start singing till later. But I'm so grateful to my parents, and I'm in awe of them for the childhood that they gave me. And if there are parents out there, I encourage you parents to expose your children to the arts. You never know what it's going to do for their lives. I will never forget being going as a child to Bob Marley's concert in Central Park in 1976. I was 6 years old, but I can still remember, so it's very important that we expose our children to the arts, especially now that arts are being taken out of the schools, that we as parents can supplement that. But my first album credit came while I was, right after college. I went to Brown University, and after graduating, at age 20, actually, I was a little kid, baby, but I got a job at Essence Magazine. It's funny, everybody thought I was an intern, and I told the president of the company one day, I said, Mr. Lewis, I'm actually not an intern, I'm a full-time staffer. But while I was there, I did some freelance writing and got an opportunity to interview Queen Latifah, and she liked my line of questioning. I was interviewing her. She said, are you a musician? And I said, yes. She said, there's something about you I can tell as a musician. And she said, do you happen to hear music? I gave her one of my tapes. It was actually cassettes then. This is 1991. And she loved it, and she called me back and was singing the song. And she said, I want to meet with you. And we went down to Newark, to Flavor Unit, which was in Newark, or Jersey City. No, Newark. And we had a meeting on a Saturday morning. I said, oh, this woman is really serious. She's meeting with me on a Saturday morning at 9 o'clock. And we ended up becoming friends, and she ended up asking me to write some music with her. And the first album credit that I had was was on an album, a song called Winky's Theme, which was dedicated to her brother who had passed, and that album went gold. So that was the first time I got a gold record, got an album credit with a star, and felt like, wow, this could really turn into something. And it really was happenstance. It was kind of being in the right place at the right time, and just being myself. I was interviewing her, but my essence of me being a musician, I guess, came out, and she tapped into that. And then from there, that was 1991, I met Phyllis Hyman shortly after that, who became a good friend and a mentor. She used to live right around the corner from here on 56th Street. And we used to hang at her apartment all the time. And she took me under her wing as a songwriter. She was working on an album, and she took a chance on a young lyricist to help her write what was her final album. And I had not known that these would be the final words that she wanted to have documented her final emotions correctly by somebody she trusted enough to help her do that. So we worked on several songs for her album, and those relationships with Phyllis ended up, I met other producers via her, Dave Hall and Barry Eastman, and they continued to keep me on as a collaborator. And Barry Eastman was the person who, when he was working on I Apologize, he had an unfinished melody and said, can you finish this? I have this little idea, can you turn this around? I said, can I turn it around? You know what I mean? Give me one reason to stay here and I'll turn my back around. So anyway, Barry gave me a CD at literally 2:30 in the morning and said, there's this little nugget of an idea, do you think you can do something with this? So I called him at 3:05 because just by playing the CD from 2:30 to 3:05, driving from Tarrytown to New York in the morning, I called him, I woke his wife up, I woke the dog up, I woke the children up. I said, Barry, I have the song. He said, what do you mean you have the song? I said, I was writing the song in the car because the whole song of I Apologize came to me. And he said, well, we're going to have to record this really quickly. So I had to go back to his studio the next day after work at Essence Magazine. We recorded the demo. He FedEx, this was before MP3s. He had to go run to FedEx and put the CD in the mail. It got to Anita right on time. She was flying to New York the next morning to master her album, but she liked the song. So when she got to mastering, he booked a studio upstairs. He had a vision that this song was special. So he booked a studio in Hit Factory upstairs. They were mastering downstairs. He booked a studio. He said, well, while they're mastering, Anita, if you want to, put a little vocal on that song, you can just have something that you could lay down as a scratch for the next album, because she was mastering the Rhythm of Love album. So she went upstairs. They were having some issues with the mastering. She's, fooling around with the vocals. He lied to the engineer. She said, okay, thank you, that'll be good, we'll finish that. He told the engineer, he lied to Anita. He told the engineer, stay there and mix this record. I feel strongly about this. So the engineer stayed up there for 10 more hours mixing the record. Mastering went into the second day. He said, Anita, I have to play you something. And he played her I Apologize, the finished version that was mixed. And because she was mastering, she said, well, that's great, where did that come from? He said, Anita, I lied. I told the engineer yesterday to just mix the record. I told him if the record makes the album, we'll pay you, we'll work it out, but I feel this is a hit song for you, Anita, I really do. And she said, well, hey, it does sound really good. And that's why my voice ended up being on the backgrounds, because she didn't even have time to hire background singers. She just left it on there. And they put it on the album, and the record company was shocked, confused, because they'd been hearing all the demos of the Rhythm of Love. They sequenced it at number 4, so the minute it got to the record company, they loved it, and they're like, what song is this? They immediately rushed it to radio, and it started playing on 10 stations right away, and by the end of the week, they were getting requests from all these other stations, playing on 100 stations within 4 days, and it charted in 1 week. So they had to rush the album coming out, they had to rush the album date sooner, and the album sold 1 million copies in a week. And won a Grammy.
I think that's one of the most incredible stories I've ever heard. Wow. Instinct is a great thing, especially when you have the fortitude of the experience of an executive and trusting a musician of the caliber of yourself. Now, I know that Gordan has 2 albums already done, and he's released them. He's going to tell you more about that, and he's actually working on his 3rd album. I'm going to let him go into that, but I want them to hear from you, the man himself. Y'all want to hear this brother sing? Because if I say I look up to him, you can only imagine. So we're going to do that. Gordan, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
So much. You want to tell them anything else before we transition?
Yes, I'd like to say that, synchronicity is the work of God. Like when things are just assembling in that right order in a way that you couldn't even put it together yourself, even if you tried. That was just the work of God in 1994, when all that came together with Miss Baker. And And I had a great run as a songwriter, writing for all these artists back to back and back to back. And around 2003, I finally got to work with the one artist, also from Newark, New Jersey, who I idolized and wanted to work with more than anybody else, and that was Whitney Houston. When I got to studio with her, I was like, wow, I have made it, you know? And working with Whitney was a great experience, you know. She was such a friend, so warm, so real. And I said to her, I said, you know, I've been a fan of yours for a long time. She said, no, Gordan Chambers, I've been a fan of yours for a long time. And then we did one song together, and then we ended up working on another album. And then when we worked together on the Christmas album, there was the bridge that I was asking her to hit this note on the bridge, and she says, baby, I think you want to do what I do. I think you want to do what I do. So I thought I had offended her. You know, she said, no, she said, I think if you want to sing, you should go for it. And that was the light bulb that I needed. I needed the greatest singer of the 20th century to tell me, you know, if this is what you want to do, you should do it. And when I hit my last note, I might be calling